Good evening, everyone. It's 4:30, so we'll get started. I know a few people more are joining us as I speak. I am Louis Boyd. I'm the lead practitioner for More Able at Chobham. It's very nice to have you all with us this afternoon so that we can talk you through the More Able provision at Chobham. During the course of the next 45 minutes or so, I will let Miss Ellis and Miss Thompson introduce themselves in turn. And Miss Ellis, maybe you could just take us on to the next slide so that we can see the schedule for the afternoon. Thank you very much. We've got a mix of parents and carers with us. You may be a parent or carer of a year 7 or possibly of a year 11 or anything in between. The idea of the evening is to give you a sense of the journey that a student who we've identified as more able will have at Chobham in their 5 years of the lower school and then into the sixth form as well. And then, of course, to give you a chance to ask any questions that you might have of us. I think possibly in the current context, parental support of more able students has taken on a slightly new meaning, of course, at home and with home learning. I'm sure there are plenty of things that you might want to run by us, and I hope there are ways that we can go beyond what we cover as our standard programme to help support you, to support your children in turn as more able students at Chobham in the current time. So we'll introduce a few of the different programmes we offer as part of the More Able provision, starting with the Chobham Experience, the Harris Experience and Year 10 tutoring, which I will now pass over to Miss Ellis to run you through.
Hi, hi everyone, my name is Miss Ellis and I am the More Able coordinator at Chobham Academy and take the lead in organising the Chobham Experience programme, which I'm going to run through with you today. So this is what the programme would look like in normal circumstances. So some of this we're able to carry on with, which I'll talk about in a later slide, and then some of it we are have tweaked slightly or is on hold, and the facilitators of these different programmes are finding out ways of going virtual. So the first one is the university visits. We have a university visit for every subject, and you'll go to the university, take part in some sort of lecture or workshop and talk a little bit about careers and just find out a bit more about what sort of university courses and later on careers you could get from studying each subject. The subject extension lectures come up on an ad hoc basis, really. We've had subject extension lectures on climate science, we've had one on volcanoes, and we've got one coming up with a consultant dermatologist, which I'll be giving the students more information about later on this week. We have a Year 10 mentoring programme, which has continued this year. We pair up with Year 10s and Year 12s. It has an academic focus where they look to improve their English, maths or science. Some students also look at some of their humanities subjects as well, and they get a half an hour slot with their Year 12 mentor to work through some different problems or some of their homework that they're perhaps stuck with to try and improve their academic grades in that subject. The Year 8 programme involves it's different opportunities again that comes up. So we've had the BBC Young Reporter, we've looked at different challenging maths programmes, and again this is a weekly programme that happens during tutor time, and the students can sort of get together and work with a teacher on some of these more extensive extension opportunities. Our student voice groups, this is when we get together with our more able students and they have an opportunity to give us some sort of feedback. So this year in particular, we've looked at challenge in lessons. So we've sort of found out a bit about what the student perspective of the challenge that they are offered in lessons, how this is delivered, how they take it up, and then we've looked to work with teachers on how we can improve this and to give the students the best possible challenge in lessons to extend their knowledge. We've also looked at feedback and how students can use feedback from their teachers to improve their own performance. We've also got subject masterclasses. Now we have a masterclass for every single subject, which is amazing, and we've managed to expand this programme so that all subjects deliver a masterclass. It's out extracurricular, so it's something they wouldn't have studied in lessons, and it gives them a wider sort of scope of knowledge about what their subject is about. And they also get to practice different skills. So our music one, they looked at different music technology. In the PE masterclass, that they have lots of debates. So they look at different skills which they perhaps wouldn't always be able to focus on in lessons. We also have our academic skills programme, which is run by the University of East London, and they will focus with the older students on these different topics: exam pressure, revising effectively, and all of these things that students sometimes get worried about or perhaps a little bit stressed about as they go through and get closer to their exams. So we try to alleviate that and make that a bit better for them. So that's what the usual Chobham Experience programme will look like. Now, you might have looked at some of those and thought, I haven't done that. Well, this is why. The journey changes from year 8 to year 11, and actually it changes again when you go into sixth form. So just having a little look at the different year groups and how they focus and how it changes. You'll see in year 8, we look at some masterclasses. We've got our year 8 tutor programme, which again has a really wide range of focus, and some of our university visits. Year 9, we carry on with the university visits, carrying on with the masterclasses, but we begin to look at careers and to find out what sort of careers students are interested in. So we can start to tailor different readings, different lectures and different opportunities to things that they enjoy. Harris Experience begins, which I'll talk a little bit about later. Year 10 is where we start looking at our academic skills. We have this mentoring programme that starts. We look at work experience, so again homing in on those careers, but getting a little bit more in detail to what the students want to do, perhaps when they leave school, what they're interested in. There's still a few university visits in there as well. Then when we get to year 11, it does turn a lot more exam focused. There is the extension lectures, and we look at sixth form choices and summer school applications and things that are really going to contribute towards personal statements and future life choices, really. All years have the student voice. I put that at the bottom there, because we really value the student feedback, and it does really inform what we do and how we develop our programme year on year. Okay, so what we're currently up to, what we have been currently up to, there is a bit of a new normal, as you will know, and we've had to tweak some of the stuff that we've been doing. So we've had the opportunity to have lots of virtual events, which you'll see at the very top right hand corner here was an event. It was a medicine event, and we had a doctor and a couple of trainee doctors who are working with the students. You can see they're doing some diagnostic testing at the moment, but they was also looking at some case studies, and they were making decisions, and they were discussing these decisions with the doctors and whether that was morally correct, and what sort of families might feel about different decisions. So they got a real insight to the life of a doctor. Just below that, you can't really see this one too well, but there's actually a barrister that was on the screen there, and the students were able to ask questions to the barrister and find out about how to get into this sort of job, and again discuss the cases and discuss a typical day in the life of, which was really interesting for the students. That brings me on to my next point about more access to experts. With this sort of new way of working, we have managed to get a bit more access to different people, because it takes away that barrier of having to travel into school. So be able to just log on to your computer and speak to the students for half an hour actually means that we're having a lot more access to a range of different people in different careers and different interests. The masterclasses I have alluded to already, we have expanded this programme this year. There are a lot more of the masterclasses happening, and also lots of them have been upgraded based on student voice, and that provides a really good opportunity for the students. With our new normal, you'll see our year 10 and 12 tutoring in this top right hand corner. We've managed to carry on with this year, but in a lot more of an open space. with the year 10 and 12 students working together on one table each, which has actually led them to be a lot more independent and bring in the work that they're stuck with and work really well with their tutor. I've talked about a student voice, we've carried on with that. The opportunities that we get offered, I'm going to tie this in with the MS Teams group. We get sent a lot of opportunities from different universities, Cambridge and Oxford being two of the biggest ones that are sending us lots of opportunities at the moment. And these will include things like taster lectures, how to improve applications. There's lots of different types of opportunities that they offer, and with these new MS Team groups that we've got, we can send out these opportunities really easily. What this also means is that students can look at these opportunities whenever they want, whenever they've got time to in the evening, and it takes away that me speaking to them during tutor time and then them forgetting by the time they've got home and logging on and doing it. So actually it's improving that access between sending out these opportunities and students actually going away and applying and looking at them online. Again, there's some tasks that we get set on MS Teams. So some of our students have been looking at strengths and areas for improvement in their subjects. Some students have been looking at podcasts, and having this MS Teams groups mean that we can constantly keep pushing students to push themselves and challenge themselves, but likewise they can also communicate with us and let us know if they're having any problems or anything that we can help with in terms of stretch and challenge. This actually, just on that point, there's an example from Dua who produced a really excellent piece of work. Would you sacrifice one person to save five? So we looked at sort of these ethical decision making. We looked at body language for speaking and talking to large groups of people, and students were able to produce their own sort of speeches. They've not delivered yet, but they have managed to write them down. So we've had some really interesting tasks going on all through these virtual MS Teams and Show My Homework. This metacognition focus, we've just started working with Year 9 on metacognition, and this is all about students being able to reflect on what they do and don't know and come up with their own strategies on how to improve the things that they perhaps don't know or their areas for development. Also thinking about their motivation and how motivated they are to improve on the things that they don't know. And it's all about reflecting and thinking and improving your own learning skills, really. So that's what we've just started with Year 9. Now, I've mentioned Harris Experience and I've mentioned Chobham Experience, so I just want to sort of home in on these key words here. So I'm actually going to work backwards, and I'm going to start with the bottom one, which is the criteria. Now, when students first start at Chobham Academy, there is a sort of a basic criteria when they do CATS tests and things like that, which if students sort of meet a certain number, then they get put into a criteria of our most able students. That's the starting point. However, we don't cap it there. It's quite fluid, and what I mean by that is if we have nominations from teachers, if a student's doing really well in a particular subject, they might also add them to the most able register. So that's where it becomes a larger group of most able students, and that's everyone who's logged in today, really. And then we have Chobham Experience. So all of our most able students are a part of what's called Chobham Experience, and Chobham Experience is everything that I've just mentioned, all the different opportunities, being part of these different groups, being invited to student voice, but also taking up all these opportunities as well. And then Harris Experience is something that is it's organised by the Federation, and it actually starts at Year 9, and this is where a really small number of students take part in some different masterclasses and different opportunities. However, what we did at Chobham Academy was expanded this Harris Experience to our Chobham Experience. So what we've actually done is made the programme more accessible to a larger number of people. We've increased the amount of opportunities that the students can have, and we've also increased the age range as well. So we've also included our younger students as well. So Chobham Experience is sort of an expansion of Harris Experience, but the students, everyone at Chobham Academy who's in this meeting now or who's in any of our MS Teams groups are a part of Chobham Experience, who are our most able students, and that is how it works really. So hopefully that clarifies what all of these sort of terms are. And then the last thing for me is this Chobham Experience passport. Now, you should have been sent this today, and this would have been emailed home, and if it isn't, then I can post all of these Chobham Experience passports into your Teams, so you've got an electronic copy. Some of you will actually have a hard copy that I managed to give you before we went into working from home. However, I didn't manage to get them out to everybody. But I have got a copy, a physical copy for you when you do return back to school. But for now, let's look at these electronic copies. So what this is a sort of, it's a bit of a to-do list really to develop your academic skills and your cultural capital. So there's a reading list in here with 6 different, actually there's 8 different books, and there's 6 spaces for you to write up about. So you can choose to write about 6 of them. So you can read any of these books, read as many as you can, because these are real classics that are really going to help improve your English skills, your English grade, but also your literary interpretation. There's also a checklist to develop cultural capital, and I received some really lovely emails last year when people had managed to complete these with pictures of students outside of the National Gallery, outside of different statues, to show that the students had been actually doing these things. Now, you might need to be a bit creative this year. There's lots of things going on online, so lots of these galleries actually are doing online exhibitions, so that would still count. So you could do an online exhibition of the National Gallery, for example, and then just write a little reflection about it and send that over to me. So just to be completing these cultural capital checklists really. Then you've got a section on metacognition. So what I've talked about earlier about reflecting on what you do and don't know and setting yourself targets. There's a couple of pages in there where you can read about that and you can start thinking about that yourself. So you'll see from this little snippet about SMART goals, asking yourself different questions. That's some really interesting reading for you, which will benefit you greatly if you was to start off looking at those different paragraphs and different sort of mini tasks. Now, these passports are different for each year group. Year 8s have different passport to year 9s, year 9s have different passport to year 10, which means there's a whole new reading list every year, and there's a whole new list of cultural activities and events which you can do as well. Which means throughout the years, by the time you get to year 11, hopefully you've read a huge list of different classic books, and you've also been to or sort of researched all of these different all of these different sort of galleries and places, museums, that sort of thing. Okay, so that's basically the Chobham Experience programme and everything you can do. And then I just wanted to also make an extra point about making the most of these opportunities. So I've talked a lot about everything that we offer as an academy and as our Chobham Experience programme, but what we really need from the students is for you to sort of buy into it and get involved with it. I can send this out to you, this Chobham Experience passport, but that could just sit in your inbox or that could just sit in your drawer. And what we really want you to do is to encourage you to actually go away and look at those books and go away and do all of those things, because it is going to really benefit you, and it will, when you come to writing your personal statement, when you come to applying for jobs, it will sort of provide you that little bit extra that you can talk about and give you a little bit more set you above everybody else really when the people you're competing against. So really do make the most of these opportunities. Everything we post in MS Teams, anything you sort of like the idea of, have a little read a bit more about it, ask questions, and get applying for all of the different opportunities and events that we offer. Okay, Harris Experience Advanced, I'm going to hand over to Mr. Boyd, and he's going to talk a little bit about that.
Thank you, Miss Ellis. Yes, so as Miss Ellis has just implied, the lower school Chobham Experience in many ways leads into the Key Stage 5 provision that we have to help students in their applications for top universities. And of course, the definition of top university is quite broad. We generally use Oxbridge, Sutton Trust 13, which are the 13 highest tariff universities in the country. The Russell Group, which is the group of 24, also very competitive universities, and there's obviously some crossover. And then any medicine, dentistry or veterinary science courses. So that may well be, students in the meeting, what you decide you want to do. You want to go to a high tariff university and study one of the most competitive courses in the country, in which case that's one of the things that the Key Stage 5 provision allows you to do. Also, we use it as a way to help students consider high tariff degree apprenticeships, and of course other career options, because at the age of 17, 18, end of year 13, you may well decide that the way that you are going to use the various skills that you've acquired through your studying at Chobham, but also through the more able programs, is by going on to an apprenticeship or a job rather than university. The Harris Experience Advanced, however, is the program primarily run by the Federation. So it is something that Harris students benefit from in a way that other sixth form students in the country don't. It is something we uniquely have access to. And it really is focused on the university and degree apprenticeship side of things. So getting students onto the course where they'll get the top degree that they can. The onus really is on students. The stress within the Harris Experience Advanced is that the students identify themselves what they want to achieve and what they want to go on to do after the age of 18. And the Harris Experience Advanced then is about providing them with a big range of possible opportunities that they could take up to go and achieve that. So it might be, for instance, a talk from a top surgeon, or it might be a visit to the Courtauld Gallery, where they experience what studying history of art might be, or it could be any range of activities between those two poles. The students are chosen at the start of year 12 for the Harris Experience Advanced, based on academic achievement in GCSE. And I'll say this for really the benefit of any year 11s on the call now, but we, Miss Rees and I in the sixth form, have already identified over 100 students in year 11 who will qualify to join, we expect will qualify to join the Harris Experience Advanced. So one big thing I'd like to emphasise about this is that the Harris Experience Advanced is open to a much larger group of students, indeed as many as qualify, compared with the Harris Experience, which in the lower school, from the Federation point of view, is that little bit limited by budget, of course. But as Miss Ellis has already explained, we try to expand it out with the Chobham Experience lower down the school. Harris Experience, no such limitations. If you are an able student and you choose to stay at Chobham for sixth form, then you are most likely to qualify for the Harris Experience Advanced. And as I've noted on the slide here, Harris Experience students, you automatically are enrolled onto the programme. So if you choose to stay at Chobham, this is something that you will benefit from, no question. Miss Ellis, could you then go on to the next slide? The other specific aspect of our Key Stage 5 provision for more able students is about getting as many students to consider applying to Oxford, Cambridge, medicine, and the Sutton Trust 13 universities. So these really competitive universities. And we encourage our students to make an application to these in part because the process is fantastic preparation for competitive applications for jobs in the future. It's also, excuse me, it's also, of course, these are competitive courses because they provide the very best education, and we strongly believe that Chobham more able students should be going on to the very best education in whatever field of higher education they are interested in. Within the sixth form, separate from the Harris Experience Advanced, we run a programme of what we shortcut as, or rather shorthand as, Oxbridge preparation, just because so many different courses come under that umbrella. But really we're talking about, as I mentioned, the 3 on the slide here. And that is a weekly session run with our year 12 and 13 students, in which they will answer the kind of questions that you can see as a little example on the slide here. So they'll consider why they might want to apply to one of these very competitive courses. We discuss in detail the kind of academic but also personal qualities that they need in order to get onto one of these courses. We go through the application process with a fine-tooth comb. They have very different specific application processes, whether it's about the interview for Oxford or Cambridge, or the workshops that you have to take part in for medicine. Then we go through how to prepare, and a lot of the course that we run is dedicated to getting students to do wider reading, think about their wider reading related to their course, and of course develop interesting, exciting academic interpretations of what they've read so that they can be impressive on their UCAS statement and at interview if they're invited, as indeed many of our students were this year. That, in brief, is what then we hope more able students will get towards in Key Stage 5. We hope that students from year 7 upwards will start thinking about the kind of journey they're on. Miss Thompson, I'm now going to pass over to you, and you're going to talk about the other end of the scale and what happens down in Key Stage 3.
Lovely, thank you very much, Mr. Boyd. So yes, I'm Mrs. Thompson, one of the assistant principals here at the Academy, and I'll talk you through More Able at Key Stage 3. I'm going to start at the bottom of the slide and work my way up. And I'm just going to sort of recap a few points that Miss Ellis made with regards to our selection criteria. So the selection criteria for the More Able cohort are not fixed. Every year we identify approximately the top 10% of the year 7 cohort using Key Stage 2 prior attainment data. As Miss Ellis mentioned, we also take recommendations from our More Able subject leads within each department. And this is particularly important in foundation subjects which haven't been assessed at Key Stage 2. In addition, our departments maintain their own More Able registers so that they can identify their most gifted students within their subjects. And you know, this is especially important for our creative arts and our performance arts, so drama, music, art and design, and also PE. So these lists allow departments to identify our most gifted students artistically and physically. We also take into account other factors, so students' primary schools, we look at ethnicity and pupil premium status so that we can ensure that our More Able cohort is representative of our whole academy. So yes, we want our More Able cohort to be made up of our most academically able students, but we work to be as inclusive as possible rather than exclusive. This year we have a particular opportunity in that year 7 students didn't sit Key Stage 2 SATs. Instead, year 7 Chobham students have sat a suite of tests, cognitive ability tests at the Academy. They sat these in December, and these tests don't require any prior learning, and it's testing academic potential rather than prior knowledge. And so from this, we will be working to identify our most able students in year 7. So, you know, I would really like to emphasize this point that the More Able register is fluid. We don't remove students from the register, but we do continually add to it. So students may be added to the register at any stage throughout Key Stage 3, 4, and in particular as they enter Key Stage 5, as Mr. Boyd has explained to us. We maintain as wide as possible, as large as possible, a More Able register in Key Stage 5 so that the greatest number of students can have access to the Harris Experience Advanced programme. The second thing I would like to talk to you about today is Challenge First Teaching and Learning. There's no silver bullet for ensuring that more able students achieve to their full potential. The programmes run by Mr. Boyd and Miss Ellis do a fantastic job of supporting our students to bridge the gap between their outstanding academic achievement and access to the best and most competitive universities, apprenticeships, school leaver programmes and jobs. But it's the hard work that teachers and students put into their lessons day in, day out, which ensures that the more able students achieve and indeed exceed their targets. And again, you know, this is hard work done by Mr. Boyd and Miss Ellis and the more able subject leads within departments. They offer a range of outstanding CPD, continual professional development opportunities for teaching colleagues based on the concept of challenge first teaching. So rather than challenge or extension tasks being an add-on, which perhaps only the fastest workers in a classroom can access, challenge first teaching enables teachers to plan their lessons with the highest attainers in mind. They teach to the top rather than teaching to the middle or the bottom. They celebrate intellectual curiosity and they make it normal for students to tackle things that are interesting and difficult and academic. So the most important thing that our more able students can do to achieve their full potential, you know, especially during this time of school closure, is to engage fully in their lessons. With this in mind, I do appreciate that it's, you know, a completely unprecedented challenge, really, having teenage children in particular at home during this school closure. It is also an opportunity for parents to be as hands-on as possible in supporting their child. Their child is sitting, you know, in your home day in, day out. And we obviously don't expect you to teach your child, but, you know, you can talk to them about what they're learning at school. You can talk to them about their areas of weakness, their areas for development, their strengths. And as Miss Ellis has mentioned, you can support them to develop their metacognition so that they can become reflective learners. Students who achieve fantastically at school don't do so because they are innately cleverer than other students. You know, we don't believe that intelligence is fixed. Students who achieve well do so because they are successful at engaging with and acting on feedback in order to improve their learning. And this is something that you can absolutely support them with at home. Students who achieve well, so more able students, they also are students with excellent attendance. And again, that is something that you can support with, particularly during the school closure, by ensuring that your child attends all of their on lessons at home. I would also like to talk to you then about extracurricular opportunities. So Miss Ellis has talked about the Chobham Experience passports. Many of the activities aren't currently accessible due to the pandemic, but Miss Ellis has mentioned the reading suggestions. In addition, on the more able channels on MS Teams, there are at least weekly posts about activities or recommendations such as TED Talks or podcasts. There are university programmes that students can apply for. There are online lectures that students can watch. So there are lots of opportunities, and indeed in some ways there are more opportunities for students to access during the closures. So it would be fantastic if you could support students to engage with those. Finally, we've this year launched the Chobham magazine. So if I could ask Miss Ellis to move on to the next slide. Here I've just shared some screenshots of some of the posts written by our sixth form students, as well as a screenshot of the podcast recorded by some of our sixth form students. And again, if we could just move on to the next slide. And here are a couple of poems written by some of our Year 7 students. I'm hoping that you will have received letters about the Chobham magazine and that you may already have explored it and subscribed. Contributions to the magazine are not limited to our more able cohort by any means, but I would certainly envisage it as something that would capture the interest and imagination of our more able students. It's something that will allow them the freedom to explore issues beyond the curriculum. And so it's something that I hope will become a real feature of our more able students' journey through their time at the academy. So please do encourage your son or daughter to get involved with the magazine. Again, I do post tasks onto the More Able channels on Teams. That's it from me. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'll pass back to Mr. Boyd, who will guide us through the rest of the evening.
Thank you, Miss. So I see someone has asked a very appropriate question to address at this point in the Q&A function. Are my child's subject teachers aware of which pupils are on the scheme? And the answer to that is absolutely. The key people in each department, and that's each subject department or wider department, for example, science grouped together. You can see here English, I represent just the English department. Each department or area has a More Able lead. That is a teacher responsible for making sure that your child's subject teacher, even if they're not themselves the More Able lead, but make sure that your child's subject teacher knows that they are more able and therefore needs challenging. So what we're going to do now is just introduce you briefly to the More Able leads, all of whom have recorded an introduction to themselves, which goes into more detail about the kind of things that you can be doing at home, that your child can be doing at home, and the kind of things that they, as the subject lead for More Able, can help you to support your child with. And I'll just direct you in a moment to the YouTube playlist we've put together of those introductions. But as you can see on the screen here, we've got in the Creative Arts department, Miss Stevens is the More Able lead. As I say, I'm the More Able lead in English. Mr. Mirza is the lead for humanities, so geography, history, psychology, sociology, and RS, religious studies. Miss Zhao is the maths lead, Miss Ali the Mandarin lead, Miss Ellis, you are the PE lead, Mr. Tarling for science, and Miss Fittipaldi for Spanish. And all of their contact details are both on the screen now and in the videos that they have put together for us. So what we are going to encourage you to do is to have a look at that YouTube channel in your own time and to look through, see what the More Able leads are recommending for your child to be doing, particularly at home. And if I just paste the link to that as an announcement, you should all then be able to get directly to it. But rest assured, we will be sending out a recording of this presentation with the link to our YouTube channel as well, so that you'll be able to access it after the meeting there. So that is everything that we wanted to cover with our time now, and we did want to hand over to you for 5 minutes or so, or as long as it requires, if you have any questions. Hopefully you can see already a few of the questions that have come in. I've been providing answers to as we've gone through. We'll give you a moment or two now to type any more questions you might have. Feel free to have a look at the YouTube channel, and if you've got any questions about that, we'll hang around to answer those. Let me just have a look then at the questions that we've already answered. So I think we've probably addressed the question around how your child was selected, but of course, if you've got any more specific questions about that, we'll be happy to address that. We're going to send out the email presentation. Had a question about business studies, and that you will have noticed we haven't currently got a More Able lead for business studies because, as a smaller department, Mr. Umair is the Director of Learning, and we would encourage you to contact him directly if you have questions about studying about More Able in business studies. Miss Ellis, we have a question here about masterclass timetables. Can I pass back to you for that one? Is that all right?
Yeah, I've just read that one. I'm just masterclasses that they offer for all subjects. They are offered for all subjects, but this is split across the 4 years. So we don't have many at all in year 11 because obviously we don't want to cross over with some really important stuff they might be covering close to their exams. But from between year 7 and 10, all of the subjects will be split. So there was a timetable that was sort of all in place for the year, but that is going to have some tweaks now due to the fact that we've had some school closures. So we will have some that are going to go online, and then the rest will be in summer. But we can absolutely we can have a little tweak of it, and then as soon as we've got that all sorted, when we know our return back to school, then we can let you know of when that will be.
Brilliant, thank you, Miss. And Miss Thompson, can I defer to you the question about cognitive ability tests and feedback as your area of expertise? I'm not sure. Do parents receive feedback on the cats?
To be honest, that's not something that I've given thought to yet. It's something that I'll be working with the Vice Principal, Mr. Carrasco, to look at. So I think it's a good question. I'm sorry, the most honest answer I can give you is at the moment, I don't know, but I certainly can get back to parents to let you know what we're doing with those cognitive ability tests and what specific feedback we'll give you regarding your own child.
Yeah, great, thanks.
I just noticed this one about universities as well. Do you want me to touch on that? When COVID is over, will we get a chance to visit different universities? Absolutely. We really hope we can go back to our programme of all the different subjects going to the different universities, because that was a really extensive programme and meant that students had an opportunity to see lots of these universities, go and see where they would be living, sit in a lecture theatre, and we think that it's really important that students can actually go there. So definitely, as soon as we can, we'll get that back up and running. In the meantime, universities are actually working quite hard at changing their opportunities which they're offering to online, and they're doing lots of different virtual experiences. Oxford and Cambridge particularly are sending lots over, which we've been sending out to students. And then there's some others that are sort of beginning to crop up now as well. So we will send those out as well. But definitely, as soon as we can get back to those universities, we will.
A great question, one that's very heartening to see. I suggest we just give people a moment more in case there are any final questions. Hopefully, Phil, we've answered all the ones asked so far. Okay. Well, in that case, thank you all very much for attending. Hopefully this has given you a really clear sense of both what it means to be a more able student at Chobham in normal times, but also in the current situation. We really would encourage you both to contact us, but also to contact the more able leads within each department if you have any more specific questions, or if after the event something suddenly pops into your head that you want to ask about. And yes, thank you for attending. We look forward to seeing you all back at school in due course. So take care for now.